Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. Try that again. Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. Today I'm going to talk about the Wild Unknown Tarot again, and the intention for today is to talk about symbols. And I'll be talking in particular about the multicolored cards, the ones that have all of the rainbow colors and rainbows themselves. And I thought I would also talk a little bit about the lightning bolts. There are a few of those cards. And then we can dive into the backgrounds of the deck. And this is something I haven't chatted about before. These cards all have a horizontal background. In this deck, there are a few that have vertical lines. And then I want to talk about radiating lines. So we could talk about that. Last week, I'm sorry, I didn't do a reading and I said I was going to. And so I'm going to start today so I don't get distracted and do a reading for you. But I was inspired as I opened my Wee Moon journal with these beautiful words from Renee Hummel. And this is called Each Morning Love. Each morning love awakens and puts on the kettle again, the songs that she sang in her dreams, murmuring still on her lips as the water boils and steam arises. Spirit, flesh of water, ascending like a prayer. Living waters blend with fragrant herbs and spices, the different flavors of herself grown in her own garden, offered in the cup she brews for us each day. How may I serve you? She asks, with each drop of herself that she pours. Our hearts, our lives, are the cups that she would pour herself into. Stay a while, she whispers, and we wake to start our day. Sit a while and sip from this cup I've made for you. Taste this love that always waits to fill you with its warmth, this love that longs to fill you to the overflowing brim. I think this is a perfect poem for Taurus, the opening of Taurus season. And surprisingly, I wasn't quite ready for this. Tomorrow, the sun moves into Taurus. Pacific time, 6:39 p.m. So I guess that means I need to do another video this weekend. I was hoping to be in the garden more, but I will do a video for the opening decan of Taurus season. So you can look forward to that. And so in light of this shifting energy from the Four of Wands into the Five of Pentacles, these transitions can be a little tricky, and I myself was not quite prepared for this shifting into that energy already. And so I just want to find comfort. I found comfort in that poem, find comfort in a reading, and ask the tarot for a message of transition, advice on transition from one decan to the next. The one constant between the decans, of course, is the energy of Venus. She is there in the Four of Wands, and she is there throughout Taurus season. And so let her love, let her beauty, let her abundance, let the gift of the divine feminine of Venus support you through your challenges. And good morning and welcome to Mary Beth, Donna, and Clevis. Lovely to have the Three Musketeers here. And so we start with one of these cards that drew my attention. One of the cards in the group of multicolored cards that I want to talk about. This vital life force energy, sort of all of the colors of the rainbow present here, and the potential that this Father of Swords holds. Ace of Pentacles, beautiful card, deeply connected to Taurus. Five of Swords on the bottom of the deck after the cut. So what about this transition? I think Chariot is a wonderful card as well, too, to take us through transitions, reminding us how important, reminding us how that the discomfort in transitions can often be through lack of balance. And one of the messages of the Chariot is to be observant of what is driving us. Is it our action-based exuberance of our solar side? Or is there a bit of almost overleaning into the wanting to retreat and be quiet? And so this is a time of year where we really need to think about that. Stepping into the action but not overdoing it. And getting out of that really beautiful energy of the slower months. And not completely forgetting how nourishing and important that is. So what does the Father of Swords as the first card have to say about this? Well, when I think of the Father of Swords and I think of the dynamic energy of this particular sword, hello to Musam, welcome. I think about how important one's voice is. One's voice. Welcome, namaste, Burning Dreamer. And that pointedness of, and what I mean by pointedness is the accuracy of the words that we choose. I love the word parsimony. Just love that word. And let's be selective in those words that we choose. The Ace of Pentacles. The Ace of Pentacles is really a gift, and it's an invitation for a new opening, a new beginning. It's a reminder that there has been energy building towards this shifting of the Ace of Pentacles. Remember that if you're working with Golden Dawn energy, that the Ace of Pentacles has its strongest energy over the middle decan of Taurus. So it's really coming into its fullness. It may not be realized just quite yet, but there, I think this Father of Swords is asking for precision. So this energy between the Chariot and the Ace and the Father of Pentacles, I feel like it's wanting us to be very precise in our focus, very precise in our focus, and not waste energy in things that don't serve. There you go. All right, let me put this deck away and take out. One of the things I am going to do at the end of today is I chose 3 cards from this deck that I want to compare and contrast with, and I'll have to take a moment to pull them out, with the version that is on my table. All right, so let's look at all of these rainbows. Okay. One of my pieces of advice when we are working with a tarot deck is to get to know its symbols. And every tarot deck is going to have different nuances with its symbology. And depending on the background of the deck creator, these are going to point to different things. Depending on the age, the experience, where the deck creator is in their life, these symbols are going to have subtly different energies. And yet, one thing that's really cool that I have found over the years is the energy of symbols. It lives in universal consciousness. And the symbols can take on an energy of their own. And somehow, if we allow the symbols to be archetypes, they can take on different layers and levels of energy. Now, there may be other cards. These are the ones that I quickly chose. But one of the questions I want to ask, first of all, is why these cards? Why do these cards have all of the colors of the rainbow or all of the colors of the chakras? What is special about these particular cards? So how does the color serve here? Well, I think for one thing, it is a focal point, right? It draws our focus from the black and white to the color. What does color mean to you? What does color symbolize? And oh my goodness, it was so many years ago, I did a video on black and white decks. One of the reasons I like this deck is the minimal color. There's something about black and white decks that does have a clarity of energy. And yet here, and there are others as well too that have, what would you call it, like a minimal color palette. And the use of the color is really quite effective. And so I would say that this is entirely intentional, that these cards have an awakening of sorts. They have an opening. There is something here that is saying we are in that moment of clarity. Kim Granz is a yogi and I believe is fully aware of everything that I'm saying and would agree with all that I am saying. Even if you know nothing about yoga, even if your energy, you don't really focus on energy. I would say that most people in the chat, most people watching this video are aware of their energy and its effects. They're aware of how important it is to balance energy. But even if you are not, and this is something that is entirely new to you, something that feels kind of, woo-woo out there, then I would have to say that even you have these moments where it's like you get struck by something. You get struck by an idea or a feeling, and just for a second, you feel differently. Just for a second, you feel differently. And that's something that's being offered in these cards. Okay, so most certainly there are chakra energies in these cards. But I think just first of all, when I'm looking at a tarot deck, I want to look at the big picture, like why these cards, why the colorfulness here? Do these cards have anything in common? Okay, so let's just divide them into majors and minors. And if there are double numbers, we can sort of do that as well. Court card. And then we have an ace and a major. And we have a 2 And we have another 10. So 2 of the 10s are fully colored. Court card, court card, court card. Okay, so let's look at the court cards. We have a daughter, a father. We have 2 daughters, 3 daughters. We have 3 daughters and 2 fathers. There are colors in some of the mother cards, and there are some color in some of the sun cards. And like I said, I didn't pull out all of them. I suppose this 3 of wands could certainly be here. I'm sure there are some that I missed. But why? Why the fathers and the daughters? And I don't have the answer here. But there certainly is something. And why the antlers, and what do the antlers represent? And why that level of awakening in the antenna, let's call them antenna, of the father of pentacles. They're called pentacles in this deck. And why the sword? Why is the pentacle not lit up in the Father of Pentacles? And why the sword? Why not the eyes of the owl or the ears of the owl? And it's interesting because the sword is not, it's an unnatural object for the owl. It's simply symbolic. So for the and this particular card is, I'm sure you can think of some particular decks, I won't mention them right now, where the Father of Pentacles, the King of Pentacles, can be quite an uncomfortable card. This suit, to me, is fully embodied. It contains the energy of all of the chakras. It contains the energy of all of the suits, all of the elements. The Father of Pentacles is the most experienced father, the one who has the potential for, the greatest amount of peace, the greatest amount of, what would you say, like their effect on people, family, friends, partners. There's a tremendous amount of energy here. Some people would say this is the 78th card. There is a completion and a fulfillment here. And I'd say this card also has a double sort of energy. I have one of the things that we're going to look at a little bit later is all of the cards that have radiating lines. And the Father of Pentacles certainly has those radiating lines. That pentacle is centered around the central point of the antlers. So there's a tremendous potential in just that energy. And I can feel the weight of it, the weight of the antlers. Now, the weight of the antlers on the head would be quite heavy, and yet I feel a lightness here. Another thing that comes to mind is that this is the moment of transition. When the antlers fully light up, when there is, wouldn't this be amazing if you could get into the forest and have such a connection with the elk and the caribou and the deer, and really understand what happens when the antlers are shed. this is a major point of transition. And I think about, I know in the Robin Wood Tarot, there is an antlered god. And I really like Donna's comment here. And this is something that you might want to just reflect on. Reflect on the decks that you have in your tarot library and just think about what that energy of antlers is to you. But if I think about it in terms of the 78th card, this is a big card of transition. It's one of those times where I think about what next? What next? And I wonder if there is that energy of transition, because here we are at when we have all of the colors of the rainbow represented, then this would signify an awakening of the Shushumna Nadi, and it could be a glimpse, just micro second of your life, of your day. It could be something a little more earth-shattering, where life indeed is in a place of change. And I think the more that we pay attention to the energy around us, the more that we receive something, we receive some information, and we know exactly in which direction to step, to walk, to act. And so I think in these colored cards, we want to pay attention to how this energy is focused. Is it focused? Is it dissipating? Where is it positioned in terms of the animals, the everything that is in the card? And I want to, with this energy of transition, I want to think about this 10 of Pentacles and 10 of Cups. These are two cards whose energy is often read interchangeably in the tarot. I feel that, especially with, I don't want to say beginner readers, but like oversimplification of the tarot, there's a lot to learn about the tarot. It's something that I feel so grateful for, and I continue to learn, and I'm so curious. But the 10 of Pentacles is not the 10 of Cups. There are so many different qualities to these two cards, and yet they tend to be read very similarly among many, many readers. And so I want to invite you to think about, in this particular deck, what is going on here, without bringing in, Golden Dawn stuff, Deccan stuff. And one is that, so look at how the red and this energy is very concentrated, which is quite different from the 10 of Cups, where the cups are spreading out and the energy is between and connecting. They feel very different, and yet really they're quite similar in the way that they are arranged. Both the 10 cups are arranged in a circle of sorts, as are the 10 pentacles. The red color in the 10 of cups hits, would you say, 7 cups? 7 cups for 7 chakras. The blue color, you could count how many cups it hits. And maybe you want to be paying attention. Let's say that you were working with the energy of the root chakra, and you're looking at this particular card, and you notice the number of cups that it connects with. Maybe that is significant in building a thread in your reading. If I look at it as a big picture kind of energy, it's about honoring connection and understanding how everything is connected. If we compare, because we absolutely have to compare, the wheel card, which is also a multicolored card, to the Ten of Pentacles and the Ten of Cups, there's a lot of other symbols and complexity to the Wheel of Fortune than the two tens. And I like that. They're both complex in color, but the symbols are, there's an ease with the symbology. There's no symbols other than the background and the color and the symbol for the suit in the two tens. All of these cards reflect change. All of these cards reflect the turning of the wheel. All of these cards reflect the end of something and the beginning of something. And yet, notice the nuance here. I would say that the change in the Ten of Pentacles would be concentrated on root chakra shifts, which is a lovely sense of freedom. It means that we are growing through the challenges that we have had in that chakra. So we have red and orange in the center. And that's a beautiful shift of energy. We are beginning to grow and expand. And so this concentration of energy feels a lot different from the message of connection that I pick up on in the Ten of Pentacles. Do any of the other cards here have concentric circles? And I think the answer, let's see, we've got this one. So no. So the only two cards with concentric colored circles are the World card and the Ten of Pentacles. Do they have anything in common? Is there a message that is similar in these two cards? And I think in a reading, should they both show up together, you're going to speak to the similarity of these cards. Of course, this is symbolic of the earth element itself, so that would be a similarity. They are both symbolic of change, 21 being the final major arcana. That may vary. I mean, in this deck, you would say it is because it's numbered 21. So certainly them showing up together, they're going to amplify that energy. So concentric circles in general are going to give us different information. The use of, maybe you see this as fireflies, fairy lights, sparkles. This is another thing to think about with the use of this sort of energy in this deck. I think there are maybe 3 cards with this going on. So let's look at the Daughter of Swords, the Daughter of Pentacles, and the Daughter of Cups. And if you want to pull out the Daughter that is missing and to see if there is color in the Daughter of Wands. I don't know what pile I have her in here, but maybe I can speak to it later. So at least 3 of the 4 daughters have color. And it is, I would say, in the distance beyond. Remember the suit that we are speaking to. Why is in the suit of Pentacles the rainbow in the sky? Why is the rainbow in the water? With the suit of swords, the rainbow is in the air. It'd be really cool if the rainbow was somehow in the earth itself. But perhaps the rainbow in the sky is more connected to the interconnectedness, the fullness of the suit of Pentacles itself. And of course, universal symbol of hope, of God, the presence of the divine. And so the daughters being purest, being most innocent, and whether these are daughters, well, let's just talk about this deck, right? There's a lightness of being to them. You could say that they are close to God. Even on the tree of life, they are right on the Sushumna Nadi. So that could be a connection here. And the duckling is connected to the water through her element. The owlet, I don't know what you call a baby owl, is connected to it in her element. Yeah. Daughter of Wands, red gold snake in figure 8, red flowers on interlaced wand. Okay. So the Daughter of Wands, I would say, is the first daughter. So she is certainly deeply connected to her own element with the red and the gold. Thank you, Donna. So I would say each of these daughters truly feels the power, their magic, their balance, their strength through their element, and to be really paying attention to the element itself when looking at these cards. Okay. I think I'm going to sort of jump around here. I did have a plan, but I think it's sort of better if we so many cool things to do here. Okay, so I'm going to get the Lover's card from the first edition. And as you look at the Lover's card from the first edition, it's all blue. How does it feel? How does the shift in color make you feel? The direction of the geese doesn't change. The coloring of the wings doesn't change. It's simply the coloring of the background that changes. This is a card that is about the yin and the yang. It's about understanding that both are always present and how we're going to work with those two energies. And with the blue color, this being a Gemini card connected to the element of air, I can understand the blue being the element of Gemini. And so perhaps this is why the blue here for the element of air. But then we shift into, in later editions, a multicolored card. I would say with a predominance of yellow, a predominance of Manipura chakra, solar plexus chakra. And yet all of the colors surround and are present. So what does this have to say about the lovers? I like in this card that both birds, so again we have the element of the bird for the element of air, so that certainly fits here. They're both surrounded by the sun. They're both surrounded by the solar plexus. And that might not be something that I generally speak to in the Lover's card. And I just want to remind you about the very hot and very phallic mountain in the Lover's card. And it is red, it's not yellow. And yet, I don't know, it's possible to make a connection there. A completion when the sacred marriage of the inner divine feminine and divine masculine is achieved. So there's like there is an explosion of color. There is an awakening when there's a knowing betwixt the inner divine and the inner divine, masculine and feminine. Lovely. I like that. Okay. Donna also mentioned this particular symbol. And we have the figure 8 in the Daughter of Wands that she mentioned. And it's also in these two cards fully colored. So the one in the Daughter of Wands is red and gold. And these ones are fully realized. So where do these cards appear in time? How do these cards make you feel? Are there any other aces that are colored? And I don't think so. Why this particular ace? And you'll note that this ace also has lightning. And when I look at this particular ace, it makes me think that it wouldn't surprise. So I don't know. I feel that the energy of swords takes on a predominant energy, a really important energy. Notice that both the Ace of the Swords and the Father of Swords are fully colored. And you see, the thing is that we don't know, right? We don't know. Kim Krans was a lot younger and a lot less wise when she created this deck. And this is one of the reasons why it's important to let the symbols and the color choices respond to your question. It doesn't mean one thing. It's really important to let that respond to your question. Okay, so let's move on to another symbol, and that is the lightning. So we have lightning that has no color in the Ace of Swords. We have colored lightning in the Eight of Wands, the Father of Wands, the Hierophant, and the Tower have yellow lightning. Well, I don't think it's rocket science what lightning represents. What is the lightning striking? What is the effect of the lightning? And when you think about lightning, which element are you thinking about? The dynamic response of air and fire. Water's also involved in this story, like what creates, and also lightning has to strike, right? There has to be an earth element involved. Lightning has to have a I don't know what you call it, like an anchor. It has to have a point where it hits. So there's a lot of different elements that are involved here, but it certainly has a fiery quality that also feels highly transformational. Mm-hmm. Mini tower moment. And there's just something about this particular Hierophant that really, I I always want, when this card comes up in a reading, I want to address the key. The key is being struck. The metal key is being struck. What is the key? What is the key opening? And that feels so important to a response to the question. The only lightning that is rainbow colored is in the eight of wands. So if you think about eight of wands, eights as symbolic of change. I don't think a lot of planetary energy is reflected in this deck. Sometimes I can bring it in, sometimes I see it. But certainly there's a lot of elemental energy. So why is the Eight of Wands an awakening card? What is it about that? And it really appeals to me as an awakening card. I feel that when I think of the Eight of Wands, one of the first things I think about is the Knight of Wands. And when I think of the Knight of Wands, I think about this realization that I have work to do. And this, whether or not at the time I realized that this is connected not only to my life purpose, so it has certainly earthly qualities and spiritual qualities, but the Eight of Wands to me feels like I need to understand more clearly, or maybe I've had an aha moment where I know in this moment where to go. I can't see the Eight of Wands without seeing the Knight of Wands. It just is, for me, it's this connection that feels really powerful. And this is just, I'm sharing this with you because this is what I do when I get a tarot deck. I look at, well, and there's only two roses in this deck. One in the Five of Pentacles and two in the Two of Cups. So why only two roses? And how do those two cards compare and contrast to each other? And like Donna said, is this intentional? I don't know. All right, so another thing I want to ask you is this. What do you feel in cards that have, and I'm sorry that the camera does weird things with this deck. I know if you have vertigo, this is probably really hard to look at. There are quite a few cards that have vertical lines. I would say this is certainly a rainbow card, Two of Wands. So why in these cards would the creator only do vertical lines in the background? Oh, sorry, this one's not. Let's get that out of there. Yeah, vertical lines. And this one's not. Do they feel ordered? Do they feel calm? How does a horizontal line in general feel? Is it settling? And there's a number, so it's really interesting. This one in particular has the white space below, because there are very few cards that have white space. And I'll pull those out for you in a second. But certainly something to observe. There are very few cards that have vertical lines, all vertical lines, and these are two of them. And these two cards are the ones that have, they're both swords, they have worms, something is cut, 5 and a 10. And the cards with clear vertical lines are, very few. So Donna Cleva says it gives the background depth, and Donna says energy at stasis. I quite like these cards with the horizontal lines. They do. They feel like I can exhale. None of them feel like I need to worry about something. Even the Eight of Swords. It's like I feel that if I can breathe, if I can breathe into this transition of the Eight of Swords, that I will be able to unfold my wings safely. That with my exhale breath, I will be able to move those swords out of the way. If I let them go. And the other cards, I don't feel like there's anything to worry about in those cards. Many horizons, many possibilities. Yeah. And so I invite you to think about this, right? So looking at the backgrounds, and it's not just with the Wild Unknown Tarot. Often the background can give us a lot of information. So you contrast that with cards that have a focus of energy. There is a central point from which the energy expands, right? So the feeling is different. And when you hear somebody say, this deck is impossible for me to read, this deck is really difficult to read, I would suggest that that comment comes with not having had a really good look at this deck, because there are a lot of layers that we can work with, a lot of layers that we can study. And with the expanding lines, I feel that I feel an opening of heart. Okay, let's go to these two comments. Here is Donna again. The radiating lines energies almost feel like an exclamation point. And Mary Beth says, cards are like dreams where everything in the dream has meaning, objects, settings, etc. Love that. When I think of the cards with expanding energy, it feels different from the concentric circles of the Ten of Pentacles and the Wheel and so forth. And I said opening of heart, but perhaps we could look at what is from what the energy is expanding, and we could say that it is that chakra that is expanding based on color, based on location. You'll notice that here in the Magician, it's at the back of the head. The energy expands from the back of the head. That's really interesting because back of the head is a translation of one of the Hebrew letters, and you could go and just go down that little rabbit hole. So interesting, and I can't tell you the number of readings where I have had crossing over information. Like, I think one of the beauties of this deck is that because there are repeating patterns, that it is often, what often happens in a reading is that you will get an exclamation point such as this, right? So where you have a card that looks like the Eight of Pentacles and the Wheel. And what if you had a reading where there was Eight of Pentacles, Wheel, and World? Okay. Okay. Now, I have this is first edition. I got to make sure this goes back. In the second edition of the Wild Unknown Tarot, I don't know if I have one here. Of course I have one, but it's just not here. So this is first edition. This was the edition with the special Pride colored Justice card. And if you look closely, everything focuses in towards the diamond. So the lines go in. So there's a square. There's 4 rectangles, and each of those rectangles point towards the center where there is a diamond. And the diamond, of course, is heavily symbolic. There is a sword that doesn't pierce the diamond but floats above the diamond. The diamond is black and white. So the diamond has 2 sides. The diamond has the masculine and the feminine. And in most of the decks that you have a white cat and a black cat. And so this is a card, and I feel I love it. I love it because with justice and all of its possible keywords, there is a harmonizing of energy that is possible here. And when I think in terms of a yogic interpretation, like this is a karma card. This is a card where it is symbolic of a pattern restored, a pattern, a tendency restored, where we are no longer on the hamster wheel and we have chosen a new path. The diamond, the white cat faces the dark side of the diamond, and the black cat faces the light side of the diamond. And so there is this realization of energy. This is number 8 in this particular deck. And so this also takes on that energy of change and forever changing. In the special edition card, we have the not only the addition of color, but we have the addition of what is a world. What is a world? And so in this card, I think there is an opportunity to respond to a lot of different things. And to really pay attention to the other majors, the other cards that show duality. Okay, so got to make sure I'm putting these back in the right place. Okay. Here's another sort of mind-blowing. So this is first edition. 7 of Cups. It's a really unusual card. What do you see? Do you see a pyramid? Do you see a pathway? Do you see a tunnel? Pointing to a single cup. Here's the 7 of Cups, I believe, in most other editions. So really big change to this card. And if nothing else, what I want to remember here is that I'm going to read the deck that I'm working with, because there's a reason why I'm shuffling the first edition and reading with that, and this card shows up. I feel the connection between my choice of deck, client, it's all connected. With the 7 of Cups in the second and editions moving forward, one thing that this card reminds me of a night sky app that I use, where you can actually see what's going on below the horizon. You can see the stars and the planets, the constellations that are about to rise. And there's just something there that, and with the sun below, so we've got the night sky, and it just feels like in this card there is a lot of I don't want to say misunderstanding, but there's a lot of things that are about to happen, about to shift. There's a lot of things we're not seeing and we don't understand. And that's one way I look at this card. That's not the only way to look at it. And how interesting that in the first edition, 6 cups were face down and 1 cup was face up. Subsequent editions had 6 upright cups and 1 down cup. Almost like the downward facing cup here is absorbing the energy of the sun, and that the upward facing cup here through the stem of the glass is it's either on top of the pyramid or it's standing on top of the opening of the pathway leading to the unknown. You might see something else. And for today, lastly, notice how few cards in this deck have white space. And all I can say is thank goodness there are some cards with white space. There are so many lines, and I think that's something about this deck. It's intense. All of those lines create for me anyway, create an intensity. And I appreciate the white space. It honestly just feels like space, like it gives me space to breathe. And some of them have more white space than others. And there's not very many cards. There's a tiny bit of white space in the Five of Pentacles. There's just not a lot of white space. Yeah. I don't think I have. There is, okay, here's some white space around the outside of the Three of Swords. So what does white space feel like to you? This is another card that's different in the first edition, the 9. I'm not going to go there today, but yeah. So I asked you this. How do those... There's a lot of horizontal line cards. And then there are some cards with white space. White space is spacious. White space is clear. I think for me, there's a sense of hope with the white space. I want to look to the white space. It's where my attention goes. I think it's very effective in the Four of Swords and the Six of Wands. As well as in this 9. Move towards the white space. Something like that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave this investigation with today's discussion. And unless there are other things you would like me to look at, so you'll need to come back and leave a comment below, then I will, I could do a final whole week of readings, 3-card readings for people. I'm happy to do that for sure. That's something I could do. But if there's another element or something else about this deck that confuses you, then please write and I'll respond. And if not, then next week we'll go on to something else and a new 5-6 week discussion. Okay? Thank you for all of your input. I love your support. I love your support. And thank you for being here. Have a lovely rest of your day. Take good care. Namaste. Thanks, Donna.